The night split open with the sound of my own heartbeat, too loud, too desperate, as if it were trying to claw its way out of my chest. I had spent my whole life trying to disappear, but in that moment, beneath the fractured glow of the street lamps, I realized vanishing had never been an option for someone like me. They had already decided who I was before I ever had the chance to speak. I was the flawed Omega, the quiet one, the boy with the wrong past, the wrong instinct, the wrong everything, the one no alpha in his right mind would ever choose. I had learned to carry those words the way some people carried scars, visible when the light hit just right, burning even when no one else noticed. But that night, everything twisted into a shape I never expected, because standing across from me was Jet Hale, the alpha everyone admired, feared, and second-guessed all at once. The strongest of them all, the one rumored to be born for greatness. And for reasons I still could not understand, his eyes were locked on me the way someone stares at something they know they can lose if they blink too long. "Elliot," he said. Just that. My name. But he said it like a vow. I shivered, not from the cold, but from the way he looked at me, as if he were seeing something worth fighting for, something worth protecting. I had never been anyone's anything. Before Jet, my life was nothing but running. Running from my own nature, from the pack that treated me like an inconvenience, from the whispers that curled like smoke behind my back. Weak Omega, broken Omega, unbondable. I had tried everything to rise above it, to shape myself into someone they might accept, but every attempt only reminded me how hopeless the effort was. You can't fix a flaw that's carved into your bones. Or so I believed. Until now. Because Jet stood there as if none of the stories mattered, as if the world had never told him I was unworthy. His jaw was set in that stubborn way he had, sharp angles softened only by the light breeze tugging at the edge of his hair. His stance was powerful but not overbearing. Every line of him screamed strength, but none of it felt like a threat. Not to me. Not when he looked at me like that. I remember drawing a breath too sharp, too shaky. "Why are you here, Jet?" He took a single step closer. The street lamp flickered once, just enough to throw his face into a brief shadow before light reclaimed him. "Because you ran. And I don't let people run from me when they matter." Matter. The word didn't feel real. Not when every part of my life had been built on the understanding that I didn't. I swallowed hard. "You shouldn't have come." He laughed softly, a warm, low sound that curled around my ribs. "Elliot, you say that like you actually believe it." But I did believe it. It was the only thing I had ever been told to believe. Jet lifted his hand then, slow enough that I could pull away if I wanted to. I didn't move. His fingers brushed my cheek, a gentle, barely there touch that made something deep inside me crack open. "You're shaking." "I'm fine." "You're terrified," he corrected quietly. "But you still came here. That tells me everything." What did it tell him? What did he think he saw in me? I stepped back out of instinct, and for a moment the distance between us grew again. His hand fell, but his gaze didn't waver. "Elliot, you don't have to justify anything to me." That hit harder than any insult I had ever endured. Justify. As if not being enough was something I had always been prepared to prove. My chest tightened with something sharp and unfamiliar. Anger. Hurt. Hope. I didn't know which. Maybe all three. The city hummed around us, cars rushing somewhere far away, voices drifting in and out of reach. But to me it felt like the world had dimmed, shrinking until only the space between Jet and me existed. Like some unseen force had drawn a circle around us and dared anyone to break it. "I don't understand you," I whispered. "You should choose someone stronger. Someone who fits the mold. Someone your family won't question. Someone the pack won't reject." He stared at me for a long heartbeat. "Elliot, you talk like love is something that belongs to them." I blinked, breath catching in my throat. He stepped forward again until we were so close I could feel his warmth. Until I knew that if I reached out, my hand would land on his chest, right over the heart beating steadily beneath his shirt. "I choose, Elliot," he said. "Not them. Not rumors. Not tradition. Me." The words hit me with the force of a storm. I tried to speak, but everything inside me tangled. Why me? Because you're brave. Because you care even when no one has ever cared back. Because you survive things that would have broken alphas twice my size. Because you look at the world like you still hope there's a place for you in it, even when they tried to convince you there wasn't. My throat tightened. He wasn't supposed to see those parts of me. No one ever had. His voice softened. And because when you look at me, I feel like I finally found something real. I didn't know how to breathe. Jet, I started, but the words dissolved the moment they met air. He reached for me again, but this time I didn't move away. His hand cupped my jaw with a tenderness I didn't understand. A tenderness that scared me more than anything ever had, because it made me want to lean into him, want to believe him, want to let myself imagine a world where I wasn't a mistake. Elliot, he murmured, what are you afraid of? Everything, I wanted to say. Losing this. Wanting you. Wanting something I was never allowed to have. Instead, I whispered, what if they're right? What if I'm not enough for you? Then it'll be enough for both of us, he said simply. My breath stuttered. It wasn't a promise made lightly. Not for an alpha like him. Not for anyone who understood the weight of the world we lived in. But he said it anyway, with a conviction that rooted itself in my chest, refusing to let go. Jet, I breathed, I don't know how to be what you think I am. Then be yourself. That's all I want. No one had ever asked for that before. Not without expecting something in return. Not without waiting for me to break. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe he wasn't here to watch me fall apart. Maybe he was here to catch me when I did. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of rain. He noticed the way my body stiffened and moved closer in a subtle protective gesture that didn't cage me in. He was giving me space and safety at the same time, something I had never known was possible. Elliot, I'm not asking you to trust me all at once, he said. I just want you to let me stand beside you. Let me prove that you're not as alone as you think. I closed my eyes. His presence was overwhelming, steady, warm, like standing near a fire after years of cold. But warmth can burn, and I had spent so long learning to avoid flames. A moment passed, then another, and slowly, I opened my eyes again. Tell me why, I whispered. Why go against everyone? Why risk your reputation? Why choose someone like me? He looked at me with a sincerity so raw it made me ache. Because you were never the flawed one, Elliot. They just couldn't see your worth. But I can. The world tilted. He took my hand gently, as if afraid I might pull away. I didn't. His fingers wrapped around mine in a way that felt both grounding and terrifying. I had never been held like this. Not with intention. Not with meaning. And then he said softly, let me show you what it feels like to be chosen. The ground beneath me felt unsteady, not because I doubted him, but because I had no idea how to exist in a reality where those words were meant for me. Jet stepped closer until our foreheads nearly touched. His breath mingled with mine, warm and steady. You don't have to say anything tonight. You don't have to decide anything. Just stay here with me. I wanted to resist. I wanted to retreat. But something inside me broke open in a way that felt less like pain and more like release. Maybe I had been waiting for this longer than I realized. I lowered my gaze to his chest, to the steady rise and fall beneath his jacket, to the proof that he was real and here and choosing me despite everything. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I had been holding. Okay, I whispered. He stiffened slightly, as if he thought he misheard. Elliot. I lifted my head. I said okay. His eyes softened, relief flickering through them like dawn breaking after a long night. He squeezed my hand gently. Then let's go somewhere quieter, somewhere you can breathe. I nodded, and he led me away from the streetlight, away from the whispers, away from the past that had tried so hard to claim me. His pace was slow enough that I never felt pushed, but steady enough that I knew he wasn't letting go. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking alone. And though I didn't know what would come next, for once I wasn't terrified of the future. I was curious. Maybe even hopeful. Because the strongest alpha had chosen me. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe I could choose myself too. The air felt different once we left the street behind us. Softer somehow, quieter, as if the city itself knew I needed space to breathe. Jet kept our hands loosely linked, never tugging, never gripping too tightly, only holding on with the steady certainty of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. It made something warm unfurl inside my chest, something I wasn't ready to name yet. We walked in silence for a while, the kind that didn't feel awkward or heavy. It felt like a bridge being built piece by piece, each step another plank laid between us. When we reached the small overlook above the river, he finally slowed to a gentle stop. "This place helps me think," he said quietly. I followed his gaze. Below us, the river cut through the city like a silver blade, reflecting the glow of distant skyscrapers. The water looked endless, carrying scraps of light across its surface, breaking them apart and piecing them back together again. Maybe I liked it for that reason alone. Jet let go of my hand only long enough to shrug out of his jacket. Before I could protest, he draped it around my shoulders. The warmth of it hit immediately, rich with his scent, fresh and grounding in a way that made my knees weaken. I opened my mouth to object, but he shook his head. "You're cold. Don't argue." I wanted to roll my eyes at the soft authority in his voice, but all I could manage was a quiet thank you. He sat first on the wide stone ledge, then patted the space beside him. I hesitated, only for a moment, before sitting down. The jacket shielded me from the chill as the night breeze swept over the overlook. For a few minutes, we simply watched the water move. The calm seeped into my bones, loosening the fear knotted inside me. Jet cleared his throat softly. "You know, you asked earlier why I chose you." I tensed. The question had been bleeding through my thoughts the entire walk. He turned slightly toward me, his knee brushing mine, sending a sharp spark of awareness through my body. But he didn't move away. He didn't even pretend it was accidental. He just stayed there, solid and unshaken. I didn't answer right away. I didn't trust my voice not to tremble. Jet spoke anyway, as if he sensed the words trapped in my throat. "I know you've heard things. About yourself. About what Omegas are supposed to be. What they should look like, act like, offer. Or what they should never be." I swallowed hard, staring down at my hands. "You deserve the truth, Elliot," he said gently. "So let me give it to you." His voice dropped lower, steadier. "The first time I saw you, you weren't even looking at me. You were at the far end of the training field, helping a kid who wasn't even part of our pack. Someone who wandered in by mistake. You knelt beside him and talked to him like he mattered. Like his fear mattered. Most people would have walked right past. But not you." My breath caught. I remembered that day. I remembered the child's shaking shoulders, the way his hands had clutched at mine. Jet continued, "And then I watched the others make fun of you for it. You could have snapped. You could have lashed out. But you didn't. You took it. Not because you thought you deserved their words, but because you refused to make that kid feel the weight of it." He paused. "That's strength, Elliot. That's something they'll never understand." My throat tightened painfully. I had spent so long assuming moments like that didn't matter, that they were invisible, insignificant. But he had noticed. Jet leaned slightly closer, his shoulder brushing mine. "I've watched you hold yourself together in rooms full of people waiting for you to fall apart. I've seen you face down situations that would have broken others. You think being quiet makes you weak. You think being gentle makes you fragile. It doesn't. It makes you extraordinary." My eyes burned. I blinked hard. He spoke even softer now. "They told you that you're flawed, that you're less. But they only said that because they couldn't see you. Not the real you. Not the one who keeps showing up even when the world pushes you down." His words hit me with the force of a truth I had never dared to believe. Jet's gaze held mine, unwavering. "I chose you because you're the one person whose heart hasn't been shaped by anything but your own integrity. That matters to me more than strength, more than status, more than anything." I exhaled shakily, unable to hide the way I trembled. I wanted to say something, but everything inside me tangled into a tight knot. He noticed the tremor, and his hand moved instinctively, brushing against my arm in a careful, slow touch. I froze, but not out of fear, out of shock, because it felt like safety. "Elliot," He murmured, I'm not here to pressure you. I don't want you to give me anything you don't want to. I'm not asking for a bond. I'm not asking for promises. I'm not asking for anything except the truth. The truth. That word had always terrified me. I took a deep breath. My voice cracked as I spoke. The truth is I don't know how to be enough. He shifted closer, his eyes softening. Elliot, you don't have to be anything more than what you already are. But what if what I am isn't enough for you? He didn't hesitate. Then I'll adjust, he said simply. I'll meet you where you are. The sincerity in his tone nearly undid me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The river moved below, a soft rhythmic sound that seemed to fill the silence between us. The night wrapped around us like a quiet cocoon. Jet let out a slow breath. Can I tell you something I've never said out loud? I nodded. He looked forward, as if gathering the words from the shadows around us. Everyone thinks being an alpha means never doubting anything, always knowing what to do, always being in control. But the truth is I don't know where I'm going half the time. I don't know how to be what the pack expects. And honestly, I'm tired of pretending I do. The vulnerability in his voice startled me. I had never imagined someone like Jet could sound unsure. He continued, voice low. But then I met you. And you made everything quiet for a moment. You made things make sense. You didn't even know you were doing it. You just did. My chest ached with something warm and fragile. Jet turned toward me again, his eyes reflecting the lights from the river like fractured stars. You think you're the one who isn't enough. But the truth is, Elliot, I'm the one who's terrified I won't be enough for you. I blinked, stunned. That possibility had never occurred to me. Not once. You think I don't see your strength, he said. But I do. And part of me is scared I'm going to fall short. That I'll let you down. I shook my head slowly. Jet, you don't have to be perfect. Neither do you, he whispered back. The world felt too still, too intimate. My heartbeat thundered against my ribs. Something inside me cracked open with a sudden sharp breath. But before I could speak, a gust of wind swept across the overlook, scattering dry leaves around our feet. The night air grew colder, clearer, sharp with the scent of the river. Jet's gaze didn't leave mine. Would it be okay if I moved closer? The question hit me harder than if he had simply done it. He wasn't assuming. He wasn't taking. He was asking. I nodded without trusting myself to speak. He scooted closer until our thighs were pressed together. The warmth of him seeped through my bones, steady and comforting. He didn't touch me otherwise. He just sat there, offering his presence like a lighthouse in a place full of shadows. I let myself lean into him, just slightly, just enough that his shoulders supported the smallest fraction of my weight. He went perfectly still, as if the moment mattered to him as much as it did to me. After a long stretch of quiet, I spoke softly. Jet, what happens now? His voice was gentle but sure. Now, you let yourself breathe. Now, you let yourself feel whatever you need to feel. And you let me be here while you figure it out. I hesitated. And if I never figure it out, then I'll stay anyway. My breath caught. Why? Because you matter to me, Elliot. That's all the reason I need. The warmth in my chest grew until it bordered on pain. I didn't pull away. I didn't hide. Not this time. The city whispered below us, quiet conversations from distant windows, the hum of a passing train, the soft rush of wind across the river. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed before fading again. But up here, there was only him and me and the gentle, steady warmth between us. Minutes passed. They felt like heartbeats. They felt like lifetimes. Jet finally spoke again, voice low. Can I ask you something? I nodded. Why did you run earlier? The question pierced me. I looked down at the ground, twisting my fingers in the fabric of his jacket still draped around my shoulders. Because I thought if I stayed I might want something I wasn't allowed to have. He turned toward me, his voice softening even more. And what is it you think you're not allowed to want? You, I whispered. The word left my mouth before I could stop it. I startled myself with the honesty of it. Jet inhaled sharply, not in shock, but in something else. Something deeper. Elliot, he murmured, do you want me now? I swallowed hard. I don't know how to answer that. Yes or no, he said gently. That's all. I lifted my gaze to him. The world dimmed around the edges until only his face remained in focus. The strong lines, the soft eyes, the small scar near his eyebrow, the quiet patience in every part of him. I forced myself to breathe. I want you, I admitted, but I'm scared. His expression softened into something devastatingly tender. Then want me slowly. Want me in small pieces. Want me at your own pace. I'm not going anywhere. My eyes stung again. Why are you being so patient with me? Because you deserve someone who won't rush you. He said it so simply, so easily, like it was the most obvious truth in the world. Below us, the river continued its endless path, shattering light across the water like broken glass. And for the first time in a very long time, I let myself lean fully into someone else's presence. Jet didn't pull away. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders in a slow, careful motion, giving me every second to retreat if I wanted. I didn't. His warmth settled around me like a shelter, like a home I had never known I could have. Elliot, he whispered, resting his cheek lightly against my hair. You're not alone anymore. Not while I'm here. I closed my eyes. And for a moment, I believed him. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in a silence that felt softer than anything I had ever known. Jet's arm remained around my shoulders, steady and warm, but never constricting. He held me the way someone might hold a fragile memory they were afraid to disturb. And maybe that was what scared me most. The gentleness of him, the quiet sincerity, the way he made it so easy to forget that the world had already decided I wasn't worth this kind of tenderness. Eventually, he spoke again, his voice a low rumble vibrating against my side. Elliot, you don't have to answer anything tonight, but I want to understand. What did they do to make you believe you couldn't be loved? The question hit like an old wound reopening. My breath hitched, and for a moment I wasn't sitting beside him. I was somewhere else, somewhere I didn't want to return to. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, he added quickly. I'm not asking to push you. I'm asking so I know how to protect you better. My throat tightened. Protect. No one had ever used that word for me without expecting something in return. I shifted slightly, enough to sit up straighter, but not enough to break the contact. His arm loosened only to let me move, then settled again when I didn't pull away. I stared at the water below. They said an omega needs to be perfect to be chosen. Obedient. Quiet. Controlled. They said confidence was arrogance. Independence was disrespect. Feeling too much was weakness. Feeling too little was coldness. Everything about me was wrong, depending on who you asked. Jet exhaled sharply through his nose. That's garbage. I almost smiled. Almost. Then I kept going, because the words had been waiting for years. They told me I wasn't bondable, that an alpha would never want someone like me, that I was too complicated, too emotional, too fragile, too loud, too quiet, too everything and not enough of anything. Jet's jaw tightened. They were wrong about all of it. But they said it enough times that I believed them, I whispered, and sometimes I still do. He leaned in slightly. And what do you believe right now? I hesitated. I believed that sitting beside him felt like something impossible, something dangerous, something I could lose in an instant. But I also believed that for the first time in my life, someone was seeing me without looking for cracks. I believe I want this, I said quietly, but wanting feels like a risk I'm not sure I know how to take. He nodded slowly. Wanting always feels like a risk, but it's a risk I'm willing to take if you are. The honesty in his eyes nearly undid me. I looked away quickly, afraid that if I met his gaze for too long, I might fall into something I wasn't ready for. Jet shifted his position again, but he did so gently, giving me space without tearing himself away. His hand slid from my shoulder to my forearm, his thumb brushing a slow line against my skin. The touch was light, careful, like he was memorizing the shape of my arm. I want you to know something, he said. I am not choosing you because you're an omega. I'm choosing you because you're you. Your rank doesn't matter to me. It never did. I blinked hard. The wind tugged softly at my hair, brushing loose strands across my face. Jet reached up instinctively and tucked them behind my ear. The tenderness in the gesture made my breath stutter. You keep expecting me to walk away, he murmured, to change my mind. But Elliot, I'm here because I want to be. Not because I pity you. Not because I feel obligated. But because something about you pulls me in. I swallowed. What if one day I disappoint you? Then we deal with it together. What if I fail? Then I'll help you stand again. What if I can't be what you need? He shook his head gently. You already are. The words landed with a warmth that spread through my chest like sunlight breaking through clouds. The river below us shifted, its surface rippling as the wind pressed against it. The sound of it was soothing, rhythmic, a reminder that even when everything felt uncertain, some things moved forward anyway. Jet's fingers traced another slow path along my arm, sending a soft electric shiver up my spine. He wasn't rushing anything. He wasn't asking for anything. He was simply letting his presence speak for him. Can I ask you something else? He murmured. I nodded. When you look at me, what do you feel? The question froze me. I turned it over in my mind, trying to name something that defied language. I feel seen, I said finally, and that scares me. Jet's expression softened. Being seen shouldn't be scary. It is when being seen has always meant being judged. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly. Then let me see you in a different way. My heart jumped. Jet. Not all at once, he added with a small reassuring smile. Just slowly. Just enough so you don't have to carry everything alone. The gentleness in his voice wrapped around me like warmth, like something I could fall asleep in. He tilted his head slightly. Can I hold your hand again? He asked. He waited. He didn't assume. I nodded. His hand slid into mine with a quiet certainty, fingers fitting between mine as if they had been waiting for that exact moment. The contact sent a slow wave of heat through my body. My pulse raced, but not from fear, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. Jet brushed his thumb across the back of my hand, a small rhythmic gesture that grounded me. You don't have to be perfect, Elliot. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be honest with me. I lowered my head, letting the weight of his words settle into the places inside me that had never known anything but doubt. What if I don't know how to let someone in? I whispered. Then start with a crack, he said gently. The rest will come on its own. I exhaled shakily. The night air tasted different now, like something new, something possible. Jet looked at me like I was something precious, something worth holding on to, something worth fighting for. The thought terrified me. And yet, for the first time in my life, I didn't want to run. I turned my hand in his and laced our fingers tighter together. His eyes widened just slightly, enough for me to know he felt the shift, too. I want to try, I whispered. His shoulders relaxed, a slow breath leaving him like he had been holding it for hours. Then we'll try together, he said. At your pace. Always at your pace. The city lights shimmered below us, casting gold across the river. And sitting beside Jet, wrapped in warmth that wasn't just physical, I felt something stir inside me. Something like beginning.